Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm here with Alyssa Downey of Amped Designs and Make Your Design Matter. And today we're going to talk about working with web design clients. We're going to share, excuse me, we're going to share the systems we use, the boundaries we have to keep projects on track, maybe share a few battle stories. We'll see. Um, and basically talk about how we run our businesses and how we work with clients. So if you build Squarespace sites or you have a small studio, this one is for you. So if we haven't met, I'm Christy Price. I'm a Squarespace expert and educator. I've been doing web design for over 20 years now. And in 2018, I pivoted my business to focus solely on the Squarespace platform. So I've been doing just Squarespace for the past 7 years. And when I was making that transition, I really took a close look at my systems and I've been shoring them up basically for the last 7 years. And Alyssa, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Christy, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm Alyssa. If we haven't met, I own Amped Designs, which is a brand and web design business, and then Make Your Design Matter is the arm of my business where I share a lot of resources for self-employed designers. I feel like everyone's probably heard the phrase "fake it till you make it," and I'm a really firm believer that we don't have to fake it. You absolutely can feel very confident in what you're doing, and I really love having these conversations about how to do that.
And Alyssa, I think one of the things that kind of makes you stand out in this field is your education.
Oh, thanks, Christy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you actually have a degree in this stuff.
yeah, I really love to learn, and I really loved
Mhm.
my college experience. And I think I'm one of those rare people that I always knew I wanted to be a graphic designer, and I never changed my mind. I never changed my major. This is literally the only thing I've ever done.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I really love just passing along the knowledge, and also appreciate that there's so many different ways to learn this stuff these days.
Mhm. I think that is so interesting because I think I changed my major like at least 7 times in college. So
Oh
I'm
my
the exact opposite. I remember I went once to change it and it was like back in the day where you had to do it via paper and they're like, "We haven't even filed the last one yet."
gosh. What was your original major?
Physics. So
Oh,
I majored in physics for 2 years, minored in math, and then had this sort of crisis of what do I want to do with myself and basically changed my major very rapidly over the next year.
wow. Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome that you found web design and have been doing it for so long.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
wonderful when we can find the thing we're passionate about and it works out
Exactly.
well.
Yeah, I started doing web design for fun in grad school, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this for fun, but I could actually make money doing this." And then I left grad school and got a job doing it, so it
Amazing.
worked out. It
I
all
love
worked
that.
out. So I started off working in sort of a startup environment doing web design for a series of startups. How did you get started with web design?
My first job out of school was for one of my professors, actually.
Mhm.
I just had a professor that I really loved, who was more in the branding space. Worked for him for a little while. After that, I worked for another professor that did a lot of brand and web and graphic design.
Mhm.
And then my last full-time job before I started my business was at a print design company. So I kind of spanned all the
Okay.
graphic design industries.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And a lot of experience before you set out on your own as well.
It was a lot
And
in a short amount of time, yes.
yeah, yeah. So after I worked for the startup, I actually because it went belly up, it was kind of a disaster. That's a story for another time. But I worked for a marketing firm here in Austin for a while, and that was where I really started understanding how to work with clients because I wasn't doing any of the onboarding of the clients, but then I would end up with these clients and their expectations were so different than
Mm.
what I thought they should be. And so that's when I started really understanding that we need boundaries as web designers. So one example is I launched a WordPress website for this client and hadn't had too much contact with the client. This one was mostly through the marketing firm. Launched the website, handed it off to the marketing firm. They, it was live, it was done. And I treated myself to a massage the next day. And I was coming out of the massage and I turned on my phone and I had 20 text messages from the marketing firm. The website is messed up. It's a disaster. What happened? Da, da, da. And it's like all of these, like, things are bad. The sky's falling. So I drove home. I didn't have my laptop with me. I drove home and I got on my computer and I saw the client had logged in and started messing around with stuff. And I was like, nowhere in my boundaries. And, it should have been like, you come through me for edits for WordPress because, that it's a little different than Squarespace. But just that moment, I'm like, this ruined my massage, my zen. And the marketing firm person was upset. I was upset. The client was upset. We were all upset just because we didn't have a process or boundaries in place around that. And so I was able to, revert back to the launch and basically ask the marketing firm people. I was like, hey, so these sites don't spontaneously combust. Like this person logged in and they're like, no, we asked him. He said he didn't log in. I was like, here's the screenshot of him logging in. And finally he fessed up and he was like, yeah, I thought I would just go in and do a little tweak. And it just, he didn't know what he was
Oh,
doing.
you can just sneak that past.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Oh my
no,
gosh.
they're logs. So that was one of my early moments that I'm like, oh, we do in fact need some boundaries around this. Yeah.
I feel like those types of situations when you're still kind of like working for somebody else are so valuable because you don't have to like carry the full weight of
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And one bit of advice that I give, particularly to college students, I speak at a lot of colleges, is that for anyone who wants to start their own business, if you have the opportunity to work for somebody else first, 1000% take it. And I know that's not always an option for everybody, but it is just so valuable for like learning what you do and don't like, and then seeing like something like that and thinking about how you could just do it so much better. And then you can avoid maybe not all, but most of that in your own business. But when I was working for the studios, there were a couple little tidbits that I picked up. One of the studios that I worked for, we had a policy where every client would get one proof a day. So even if they got the proof and responded immediately, they would not get another round of revisions until the next day. And I know some people, think that that is kind of like anti-responsiveness, but within 24 hours is a great response time.
Yeah.
And we kind of learned that like, if we respond very quickly all the time, the client always expects that. So then later when we cannot respond immediately, they're upset because they're so used to it.
I talk about that too. I feel like early on in my Squarespace career, I was trying so hard to get clients and like do everything as fast as I could that I actually trained my clients to expect immediate responses from me because I was always in my email. I was always on top of things. And, somebody would basically learn that they didn't have to Google it. They could just email me and I would answer in 10 minutes. And I trained people to expect these immediate responses from me. And it got really painful because then when I would get busy, I couldn't, and they would be upset because they were used to that immediate response time. So what I started doing, and I don't know if you do this too, but when I like to get things off my plate and out of my brain, so it's not like lingering. So if I get a quick question from someone, I'll reply, but I actually set it to go out at the end of the day or the next day. And that serves kind of two purposes. One, it's not training them to expect this immediate response. And two, sometimes something else comes to mind for me. Like I'll be, taking the dog for a walk and I'll be like, oh, wait, I didn't think about that. And then I can go back and edit it before I've sent it. So it's really, it's my subconscious is still working on it, even though it's not in my task list anymore in my brain. So scheduling those emails has really, like, it feels like it's off my plate. I freed up, that task, but it's still answering their question in a kind way, a great turnaround time. If it's the next day, that's amazing, right? We're all busy people. We shouldn't expect like instant gratification on emails.
Mhm.
So that has really been a nice change that I've made over the past few years.
Mhm. I love that idea, actually. I used to do something similar. I would
Mhm.
draft emails in the evening and then send them the next morning. So
Yeah.
I totally agree. But that's a really good point about just like setting precedents in general, which I
Mhm.
feel like leads into the boundaries topic and how
Mhm.
like the first time you do something kind of like sets the precedent for everything else. And I'm just curious
Mhm.
about like if you have any thoughts of in other situations where that comes up.
Yeah, no, I think it is a really slippery slope. So, there I can think back to projects that I've worked on, and there will be a client that I'm like, "Oh, I'm just gonna make this one, do this nice thing for this client," and then it becomes this expectation.
Mhm.
So I had a client that I did just a designer for a day project with. It wasn't a custom designer thing, just a designer for a day, and it went great. And during the designer for a day, I have a Google Voice number that I share, and I
Mm.
explained to them, like, I don't monitor this number. Um, I just use it for the designer for a day. And I I actually do like the notifications show up on my phone and I can choose to ignore them, right? So,
Mm.
I don't like hide it or anything, but I don't actively monitor it unless I'm doing a designer for a day. But this woman was really nice. And then a few weeks pass, and one Friday night, I'm at home, not doing anything, and I get a text message from her on that number. It's like, "Hey, I've got to get this thing sent out in email campaigns. I just have a quick question. Can you help me?" And I was like, "Sure, I'm not doing anything right now. Let me help you." And then 3 other Friday nights, I'd be at the movies with my husband, and I would get like 5 panicked texts from
Oh my
her.
gosh.
Yeah, and I was like, "This was my own doing. This was my fault for."
Oh.
So now when I wrap up a designer for a day, I actually have a copy and pasted, text that I send people, like, "I will not be responding to texts at this number. Please reach me via email," so
Mhm.
it's really clear. But yeah, anytime that I have, kind of given somebody an inch, they'll take a mile. And it's just that's just how it is. Hey, Christine, so glad you're here.
Mm.
Talking about those times where we've let the clients, text us on a Friday night, and we should not have.
Yeah, that's so tough, and I feel
Mhm.
like I'm kind of like a yes person, and it's really hard for me to say no to
Mhm.
things and do that, but
Mhm.
I force myself to do it because I know that it'll come back to bite me.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I mean, she was so sweet, and I just wanted to be helpful, and I was like, "Oh, it's a one-off." It was
yeah,
not a one-off,
yep.
and so it's like, "I'm sorry, I would have done this for," there have been other times that I've gotten, like, texts to that number that I just ignore now because now they get the message, like, "This number is not monitored." They can email me on a Friday night at the movies. I'm not gonna drop everything and go home to teach you how to send an email. Yeah,
Mhm,
no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanna say I'm a huge, advocate for having little copy paste things, like you mentioned, you just have a little script that you
Yes.
copy paste in. So helpful.
Yes, I use Gmail or Google Workspace for my email, and so I have templates set up.
Mm.
You can have 50 of them, and I think I have probably close to that
Oh, okay.
for, like, if I get an inquiry and it's not a good fit, it's just
Yeah.
like, "Boop, done." Or if, I get an inquiry and it is a good fit and I want them to schedule a discovery call, boop, done. It's
Yep,
just so fast. It's one button. So
yeah.
I am a huge fan of setting up email templates, and I also, for texts, for designer for a day stuff, I have that in my little notes in my phone. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I have that a similar process, but mine live in Notion, so I do have to copy paste,
Yes.
so one extra
Mhm.
step. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just such a time saver because I feel like, 5 times a week at least, I'm sending the same email to
yeah.
someone. They're like, "Oh, I found you on Google. Can you build me eBay?" And I'm like, No. No, in fact, I cannot." Um,
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
yeah.
Um, Okay, so in terms of scripts, this is making me
Mhm.
think about onboarding, which you kind of touched on before,
Yeah.
or it was onboarding or offboarding, where you mentioned that the client didn't, or the marketing company didn't have much of a process. So I'm guessing you
Yeah.
have a lot of preset scripts and processes
I
for that sort of thing too.
do. Yeah, I do. That's something I talk a ton about in my course, The Web Designer's Playbook. So I share all of that. I think some of the most important things to me are really just being clear, even before onboarding in the discovery call, really, before I've even onboarded someone as a client, being really clear about what is included and what is not included. In, for example, if they're hiring me for a custom website, before I was really clear about things, I would have people that just assumed I was going to set up emails for everyone in their company as part of web design, or just like bizarre things. And so I'm very clear now about what's included, and anything outside of that, for example, if you need an Instagram setup or if you need templates done for other things, like those are all extra. And so when I send my contract, I actually have, here's the package and what's included. And then I have a list of add-ons just to like let them know, like, oh, if I need an extra page, that's an extra charge. If I need an extra call other than what's included, that's an extra charge. And so just setting that really clearly, that expectation that this isn't a free for all. This is a set package. And if you need additional support, or if you need additional items, or if we need to change the scope, that's going to change the price. Is
Mhm.
I imagine you do something similar.
Yeah, my
Mhm,
proposal is very specific about what is and is not included and lists
mhm.
a lot of add-ons and things. And then
Yep.
my contract is very specific when it comes to scope of work, like down to like, I mean, how many rounds of revisions to each
Yes.
phase, and like how many design options they see, how many meetings are included, and like if they're in
Yes.
person or if they're virtual, and
Mhm,
um, also like what is expected of them and by what date and things like that. I feel
mhm.
like if you ever think that it's too much, it's not. Like, it
It's
can
not.
never be too much
And
information.
yeah, and one of the things I think is important too, it's like you mentioned in the discovery call, it's in the contract. When you have your strategy call or that first meeting with your client, you tell them again then. It's
Mhm.
just like you put it in the emails. So it's not just like you say it once and they remember. It's an ongoing reminder. Like every
Yeah.
time we have a touch point, I'm reminding you, here's our boundaries, here's the next step. So
Yeah,
it's really clear.
totally agree.
Yeah.
That used to be one of my biggest struggles. Well, in that I had it in the contract, I had it in the
Hmm.
proposal, and I would maybe mention it once, but
Hmm.
then so I guess let me like use a specific example. I feel like one thing every web designer struggles with is the content, getting the
Hmm.
content.
Yeah.
So my policy is that clients have to have it in 1 week before the website start date.
Yep.
And it's mentioned in a bunch of places, but I, for a while, was still having clients miss it. And then because I'm the yes person, I would feel so bad. And I feel like it was my fault for
Hmm.
not preparing them enough. And what I was missing was the consistent communications, like
Hmm.
multiple follow ups and like verbal reminders, not just of the deadline, but of the repercussion as well. And
Yeah.
it took me a while, but I was able to find like the right wording to say it in a way that's like, this is important. And there's a repercussion if you don't hit this
Hmm.
deadline, but like say it kindly at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's so important. That's a great point because we can have these boundaries, but also serve our clients well and be really kind. And
Yeah.
those boundaries aren't just for us, they're for our clients too. Because if we didn't have that, that client would, be years late with the content and then never have a website. So I think that's such a good point. It's that boundaries and kindness can live together really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
I was having this flashback when you were talking about rounds of revisions. The same marketing firm that I worked with, I was doing a website for an architect, and she was so interesting. This is a client that I actually did have contact with during the build, and it was another WordPress website. and she didn't have her branding colors down. And so I
Mhm.
was trying to, like, she wanted a blue. And so I had this blue color that she had described to me, and it wasn't right. And so then we changed the blue. We changed this blue color at least 30 times on her website. And I swear by the end, she was like, well, my psychic's cat didn't like it. It was just like, it got
Oh,
insane.
no.
And so that was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I need to have a talk with this marketing firm too about like boundaries. And I need to carry that with me when I leave, because rounds of revision can be insane. And
Yeah.
what it came down to, it wasn't the color blue at all. It was her hesitancy to have her website launched and out in the world.
Mm.
It was really just, it was all psychological, and it was not the color blue at all. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was another one of those moments. I know we all have stories like that. It's just like, there was this one time.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
but I think that has really helped, like those crazy things that happen have helped me to really hone my system and make a system that works for me, but also for my clients. And the clients, like after I launch a website, almost every client is like, I loved the process. You kept me on track. You kept it moving
mhm.
forward. And that's something that people are really looking for. Christine's like, so many times I feel more like a therapist for some clients. 100%.
Yeah.
I still occasionally do. I remember I had a husband-wife team who I worked with, and I was like, "Oh, I need to learn how to be a marriage therapist more than a web designer."
Yeah, I have heard some other designers mention, the sentiment like, "I don't feel like I should have to do that. The client is an adult. They should be responsible for their deadlines and whatever, whatever." And it's like, maybe to an extent, but like they are looking to you to guide the project. Like this is
Yeah.
your job. This is
Mhm.
part of the job.
Yeah,
And they're not designers either.
right.
So uh, even though it seems like to us so obvious why these things are important, they're not
Mhm.
always obvious to the client.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because a lot of times when I talk to somebody initially about custom web design, they don't really understand what that means.
Mhm.
So, when I'm describing custom web design, I say, I take your content and then I create this beautiful framework and structure for it so that it's really easy for people to use and they understand, what you offer and they can easily book with you. So it's very strategic, but I'm using what you provide to create this website. And in their mind, they think I'm going to give them that framework and then they give me pieces to put
Mhm.
into it, which is, exactly the opposite. That's one of the reasons I started doing my template build outs, was for that type of client who's like, I won't know it until I see it,
Mhm.
and it's like,
Mhm.
great, here's a template,
Yeah.
see it, give me the things that go here. So I think that is a really interesting differentiator in just what people don't understand about how web design works. And is it content driven or is it, design driven? It really depends.
Mhm. Yeah, and I feel like this just all goes back to that initial, like, being so clear in the beginning to avoid
Mhm.
these, like, misaligned expectations later.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because now that I have the custom build and then I have a template build out, and the template build out is like less than half the price of where my custom builds start, right? So it's cheaper. And so everybody's like, I want this one. And then they'll describe what they want. And I'm like, no, that's a custom build. Like, this has 4 pages and it's this template. It's gonna look like this. And
Mhm.
and they'll have a completely different business that would not fit that template. And so it is that kind of education up front about
Mhm.
exactly what is required from them from the get-go, what you need to be able to do your job, but also making sure that what you offer is aligned with what they need. So there are a lot of times that I've had a discovery call and realized like I'm not the right fit for this project. Maybe it's because it is just like a niche that I don't understand at all. Like, you could give me all the content in the world and I don't understand this. I cannot create something that works to drive conversions because I don't understand this world. Or it's a design style that they want that I'm just not capable of creating.
Mhm.
It's there is a lot I can do, but like sometimes I'm just like, wow, no, I don't even know if you can do that on Squarespace. So, it's platform, it's design style, it's the topic itself. And I feel like, it's on us to make sure that we can deliver something amazing for that client in the end.
Mhm. I really appreciate that perspective because I'm sure we're all familiar with this other school of designers who are like, it's my platform and every other platform is terrible
Yeah,
and like this is the only way and I can do anything. And with web design, like there are so many nuances. I feel like you can make a case for or against any platform. It
sure.
all just comes down to like that designer and how well they know the platform that they're designing in. And
Yeah.
it's just, it really, I guess I very much fall in line with what you're saying about like we are it, it's good to know that we are not like the only person for every project. Like
Right.
you got to be able to like recognize when you're not a good fit, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're a
Mhm.
bad designer or anything like that.
Right, right. And I think that, when you do start saying no, it can feel weird. It's like, "Oh, I'm turning down work." But then, uh, my friend Risha says, "You protect your yes." So you have
Mhm.
these yeses and you're protecting them for the things that are really aligned and wonderful. So I love that perspective as well.
Yeah. And most clients really appreciate that type of honesty.
Mhm.
And I've even had situations where I turned down a client, but they referred me another client. So
Yes.
I feel like it always comes back around in some way when you're that honest. I feel like we want to talk about like weird client situations. I have
Yeah.
had one that I turned down because I got like a couple, I don't know, weird yellow flags, and it was an industry that I was not particularly interested in. I was trying to get into like specific industries, and that was not one
Mhm.
of them.
Mhm.
And they like begged me to take their project. And I think I had to turn them down like 4 times. It was
Oh,
very
wow.
strange. I mean, I just feel like, I don't know, I thought it was very odd. It was just like
Mhm.
trying very, very hard for not, to, for lack of a better phrase, to work with
Mhm.
somebody who doesn't want to work with you seemed kind of weird.
Yes. Yeah. That is so odd. That is so odd.
But
I actually had that happen once with somebody who needed some features that it would have just been this was years ago, it would have been much better on WordPress than
mm,
Squarespace at the time, and so I was explaining that, he was like, "Yeah, but I want you to do this." I'm like, "Well, I don't work in WordPress anymore." And he was like, "Well, you could do it for this project." I'm like, "No. In fact, I cannot."
yeah. Yeah, I have also had a handful of clients try to convince me to work in a different platform.
Yeah.
And this is another area where, like, again, everyone's situation is different. Sometimes, if you really, really, really are in a tight place and you need the money, like, I can understand making exceptions.
Mhm.
But in most cases, like, just to use myself as an example, like Squarespace is the platform I know the best. Like I know it like the back of my hand. I
Mhm.
know how to set it up properly for SEO, accessibility, user
Mhm.
experience, all the things. It would take me forever to try and figure it out in a platform that I don't use, and I
Yeah.
probably would not be doing it correctly. And at that point, it's doing an injustice to the client.
Mhm.
So I just feel like it's always in everybody's best interest to refer it to somebody else and
Yeah.
just again like know that that's going to come around back around to you in a positive way.
I think yeah, and I think it's really interesting too, like, obviously we both chosen Squarespace as our platform of choice to build in, and that does limit the type of clients we can take on. Like I would never ever put a food blogger on Squarespace. Never.
Yeah.
So there, it's interesting, but it when I was making the transition from WordPress, I was looking for something that that checked some boxes. And I'm curious to hear what boxes it checked for you, because for me it was I wanted to be able to create websites that I could hand off and the client could maintain to some degree. If they had small changes, they could do those on their own. And along with that, I didn't want to have a maintenance plan anymore because I felt tied to these projects forever and ever because I had to go in and update plugins every month on WordPress. So that was two. And then 3, I wanted something to kind of work like my brain worked. So when I was doing research, I was, building in Wix and Weebly at the time and Strikingly, like all these platforms that were out there. And Squarespace, the way that they had the design and then you had the custom code CSS on the side, it kind of worked the way my brain did. And so that's why I chose Squarespace because, it worked for the type of projects I wanted to take on, but also for my brain. I'm really curious about what made you choose Squarespace.
The first website I ever built in it was my own portfolio website after I graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kept going with it because
Yeah.
that was what I knew. But the thing that I like most about it is what you said. It's so easy to hand it off to the client and
Mm-hmm.
they can make updates. They don't need to come back to me for every little text change. And
Yeah.
I see that as a good thing because it's like empowering them. And when they feel like they have the control, they're actually more likely to come back to us when they do need a bigger change or a bigger
Mm-hmm.
project instead of
Yeah.
feeling like they're trapped.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I found really interesting is the difference between the WordPress world and the Squarespace world. So in WordPress, it was very much like I would have never had a conversation like this with another WordPress designer because at the time when I was doing it, it was very cutthroat. It's like you
Mm,
did not share your processes. These were my clients. I'm not going to share anything I do with you. And also designers at that time were like holding hostage their clients. Like they would have their clients' domain names, and it was just
yeah.
so odd. So I love the time that we're living in now, where it's like collaboration over competition. We our clients, I call it my hit by a bus protocol. It's like if something happens to me, you have everything you need to have another designer pick up where I left off. So
Yeah, I
everything
totally
is in the client's name. We had this really interesting comment here from
agree.
Joe. I once had a client who asked me to design their website in Kajabi. I said yes and really wish I hadn't. It was not a fun experience. And I get that because, from time to time I'll play in other platforms. And I think it reminds me of the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a cognitive bias. So when you are just starting out in a specific field or you're learning something new, you tend to kind of overestimate how easy it will be or how good you are at it. And then it's like, oh yeah, I build in Squarespace, I can build in Wix, and I'm off and I'm like, oh wait. And then you start learning about it and your confidence gets really low. It's like, wow, I don't know anything about this at all. And then over time, it's like you do learn and then you're an expert and your confidence is back up where it was when you initially started and you didn't know anything. So I find that so funny. And I fall victim to that all the time. It's like something new.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that'll be easy. No.
Yeah. It's like such a difficult balance because it's like I feel like, I kind of gave a case for why not to take on something in a platform that you don't know. But at the same
Mhm.
time, like you got to learn if you want to learn a new thing, there's only so many ways to do that.
Yeah.
So, I feel like there's a balance. Like you can probably get a good sense of like what type of project is a good like starter project to help you learn something versus like
Mhm.
going in way over your head, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like too, to Joe's point with Kajabi, it's like, but if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't know that you don't want to build in Kajabi. So
True.
I feel like, from time to time, it is kind of fun to dabble in other platforms outside of Squarespace. Like, is Squarespace still the best fit for me? Let me check. And,
Mhm.
just knowing that and then understanding what platforms you might want to explore and which ones are a hard no for you. So Wix is a hard no for me. I built 2 websites in Wix when I was doing this transition to kind of figure out where I wanted to be, what platform I wanted to focus on. And I think one of them is still live today. This is like from 8 years ago. And it was definitely a platform that I'm like, it has some pros, but it just doesn't work the way I work. It was
Mhm.
just not intuitive to me. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's part of it too. It's you have to pick something that works for the type of people you wanna work with, but that also works with your brain.
Yeah, I totally agree. So when you were talking about the ease of Squarespace, like being easy for the client, I feel like that gets into the offboarding conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved learning about offboarding from you because I've implemented some of your tips.
Thank you. Thanks. I remember you messaged me and you're like, you said to make a duplicate of the site at launch and I do it and I finally
It came
needed
in
it.
handy. Yeah, okay, so do you want to share that tip? Or
Go
because
ahead. No, go ahead.
okay,
Yeah.
Christy's tip that I have since implemented since learning it from her was after finishing a client site, she makes a duplicate of the entire website before handing the site off to the client. And that came in handy for me because I had a client accidentally delete their entire footer. And I was like, oh, let me just go over to my duplicate and copy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So total life changer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's because I've had people who have gone in, much like the WordPress guy back in the day, Squarespace people who will go in, clients who will go in and they'll think, oh, I'm just gonna add a page, but instead they accidentally edited an existing page, and they're like, oh no, I saved it, I can't get it back, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like from that learning, I'm like, how can I prevent this in the future? I can duplicate the site and just have a
Mm-hmm.
backup, which lasts for, depending on your level of how far you are in circle, it can be a few months to a year. Um, yes. And Joe's like, easier now with the ability to save sections to your account. Yes. I love that. It's just easy to just pop things over and replace them. But I feel like offboarding is one of those things that we don't really talk about much. And I think it's one of the most important parts of the whole web design process because you are saying goodbye to your client, but you want to help set them up for success. And you also want them to refer you to other people. So I feel like sometimes it's like, okay, great, your site's launched, bye. And so I have a few systems that I use in offboarding. Another one of my favorites is I have a hidden help page for the client that is directly in their Squarespace website. So if they go, if they just type in their website/help, I hide it from SEO so it doesn't show up for other people. Or if they're just, in the pages and they go under not linked and looked at help, it has a note at the top about how to book me if they need me in the future and about expected timelines. And then I basically have a little list of videos that I make while I'm building the site of things that I think they might want to edit. So if I've set up a blog for them and they're going to be blogging, I just video myself adding a post for them and I talk through why I'm doing each thing so that in a few months when they're ready to add their own blog post, they can go back to the video and just follow along. So I usually have anywhere from like 5 to 10 little short videos for the clients to follow along on things that they may want to change themselves. And then I have notes on the fonts we use, the colors we used, so that they're not trying to get into the color palette or font palette because people accidentally change those things. So I'm just like, don't go there. Just look here if you need any of that info. And then like little tips on SEO, get backlinks to your website and things like that.
Mm.
So just, a nice full page. I also copy and paste any custom code that I've used on the site and stick it there just in
Mm.
case that goes awry at some point in the future. So yeah,
Gotta back
that's
that
another one of my favorite offboarding tips. What about you? What are some of your favorite offboarding tips?
Okay, first of all, I just love that idea of having the resource page with the link to how to book you and everything like that. And the idea of like recording the videos while you're making the site. I have
Yes.
historically done it after, but now I'm like, oh, that would save so much time if I just did
Yes, it takes
it.
zero extra time. Yeah.
But okay, so I do similar but different things. I have a video library on my site, and the
Mhm,
client gets access to it after. And
mhm,
it's like how to update, all kinds of things, blogs, list sections, whatever. And so anytime a client has a question, if it's something that could apply to other sites, I just add it to the video library.
mhm,
And so with offboarding and onboarding, I have really embraced doing a lot of things like on Zoom. And it kind of goes back to the like clear communications thing we were talking about
mhm,
before, and how previously I was sending all this information in writing And well, like I mentioned, I wasn't consistent about it, but also people weren't reading things. And even if I
Mhm.
sent a video recording, they weren't watching the video recording.
Right.
And I kind of found the same thing with offboarding. Like I was putting in all this work to make these video tutorials and put together this packet with like referral partners for copywriting or photography, all these things that they could use, and like
Mhm.
how tips for updating their website. And they just weren't looking at anything.
Yeah.
And so now I do my offboarding face to face on Zoom, and I do the same thing with onboarding. So like
Mhm.
immediately when they book, we have a welcome meeting, and I like
Mhm.
verbally tell them the deadlines and the important policies and things so I can make
Mhm.
sure that they hear it.
Yeah.
But now with offboarding, I kind of walk them through some basic things on their site and like point out, like, if you have questions, here is where this is. And like, these are some tips for you. And like, these are some
Mhm.
resources, because that's the only way I can know for sure that they're like absorbing the information. And then whether or not they use it from there, at least I
Mhm.
know that they got it.
Yeah.
And I know that these meetings are like, they might seem to some people like a little extra work, but I feel like it's so worth it, because it's kind of like you said, like you want people to refer you, you want them to have a good experience. It
Mhm.
just is like the icing on the cake. It just makes them
Yeah.
feel so taken care of.
I completely agree with that in terms of just that extra face time that they get with you. I will say that when I started out as a web designer, I did not have the confidence to do that. So if you are
Yeah.
new
Same.
to web design, it is fine to, to start off doing recordings that you can edit and share that and go back and forth via other modalities rather than like trying to do things on a live call. I find now that it is a lot more efficient. And to your point, Alyssa, I know that they've heard it. They didn't just
Mhm.
gloss over it in an email, but I do the same. So we have basically a strategy call right after they book that is an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the project. And we cover a ton. And then I do a tweaks and launch call at the end of every build. So it's typically a 90-minute call where we make any final tweaks together on the website and then we launch. But part of that time is explaining the offboarding process as well. It's like, here's your help page. Here's how to get in touch with me. Here's what's covered and during your support window. Here's what's not covered, as we talked about before, but you've forgotten, because, invariably, if you don't remind people, they'll be like, oh, I just need an extra page during the support. That happened to me years ago as
Mhm.
well. And I'm like, no, you don't get extra web design. It's like I fix things that are broken. So I'm really clear about that now and what's included during support and what isn't.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah. But I think being able to do that live is a skill that's kind of come with time and confidence.
Yeah, and I also, similarly to having like email scripts, I have talking scripts for these things too. I
Uh-huh.
try, I've done it enough that I can kind of just glance at it quickly and I don't sound like a robot, but that's
Yeah.
really helpful for me.
Yeah, I have points, like bullet points. It's like I have to cover all of these
Mhm.
points in the call.
Mhm.
Similarly. Yeah.
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 I don't know if you saw Christine had a question.
Yeah. So Christine says, I would love to hear your takes on boundaries with people, usually other designers who want to pick your brain. I get lots of these and I always try to be helpful, but it's so time consuming.
Mhm. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I think, okay, my answer is probably different for other designers versus business owners, and it depends on
Mhm.
what it is. So, like students, college students can always pick my brain.
Mhm.
I love helping students.
Mhm.
Other designers, if I can answer it in like 30 seconds or something, like I don't really mind.
Mhm.
Um, if it's like they want to have a coffee chat and pick my brain, it depends. Like if I'm really busy, I actually got a really good script for this from Olivia, who was on your YouTube live the
Oh
other week.
yeah.
And she said, she gave me this really good script. It was something like, that would be so fun in the future. I'm really busy right now, but I'd be happy to chat via email in the meantime.
Mhm.
And I usually don't mind like just chatting via email. And most of the time they don't really say much after that, which I don't mean to
Yeah.
scare them away, but
Mhm.
I would rather do that than have a 30-minute call sometimes.
There was a time that I said yes to those coffee chats, and it was really nice to meet other designers, but I also felt like I I wasn't getting anything out of it for me. It was very one-sided, and it was taking away time that I could be spent doing, like, client projects who were paying me. So,
Mhm.
my thought process around it is, like, if it's somebody who has purchased, like, a bunch of my digital products and they wanna talk to me about something else, yes, because I'll probably have an idea about another digital product, or I wanna hear their experience with what they've purchased. So that's one type of thing that I would still say yes to. If it's somebody who spent
Mhm.
a lot of money, of course, of course, I wanna support them. Um, my other thought, the way that I think about this now is pretty much everything I know is in one of my courses or on YouTube. So it's there. You don't need me personally. You could watch my YouTube videos. You could purchase my course that explains that exact thing. So I kind of feel like everything I know is public domain or you can purchase it. So
Mhm.
I feel a lot less like I have to say yes all the time. I do want to support other designers. It's important to me. And like you said, I've had calls with a few college students this year, and of course, that's always a yes, right?
Mhm.
But I think for people who, this is their business, then it really is, it's like we have to basically take care of ourselves, but take care of other people too. And
Mhm.
by virtue of creating products that answer those questions or creating YouTube videos, I feel like I don't need to have a one-on-one with somebody to answer a question that they could find if they just looked at my YouTube channel. So a lot of times when I get those emails, like, can I pick your brain? I'll just say, yeah, almost everything I know is in my courses or on YouTube. What particular topic are you interested in? I can point you in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that answer.
Yeah.
And it's so tricky because I also love meeting other designers. I mean, like
Mhm,
you and I are
mhm.
both in a lot of similar
Yeah.
design communities.
Mhm.
And I like never want to come across like I don't value these
Right.
relationships. But at the
Yes.
same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, especially when we're like in the thick of client projects, like
Mhm.
I only have so much time.
Right, and
And
there
it's
have been conversations that I've said yes to, and I've come away from feeling taken advantage of,
oh,
honestly. Not with anybody who's here. Thank you for watching. But I wanna say yes, and I wanna be helpful, and sometimes it's like, I'm so helpful that I'm giving away, like, massive intellectual property that I have in my course. It's like, just buy the
yeah.
course, like, it's all there.
Yeah.
But I it's hard because, like, I think we all are wired to, like, maybe why we do this work, we wanna help people, and I love
Mhm.
other designers, and I wanna help them, but I also feel like we have to be fair to ourselves too, and, if we're swamped, it's like, "Can I just have some downtime?" Instead of actually being on another call. Yeah.
Yeah. So tricky.
Yeah.
I'm
It is
curious
so
if
tricky.
yeah.
It is so tricky. Yeah,
I'm curious like what
Christine,
you do,
if
Christine.
yeah, Christine, I would love to hear what you do. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, I have a question then on a
Yeah.
similar note.
Mhm.
How do you navigate like that, but with clients,
Mhm.
particularly like past clients?
Mhm.
And or if you're in the middle of a project and they're like, the type of client that always wants to get on the phone or something like that.
Mhm. That is a great question. So it depends on, again, it kind of depends on like what was our relationship. So if it is a past custom, like I actually had somebody reach out this week from a past custom build that I did that was pretty big. And she's like, we're thinking about adding this. And I was like, yeah, here are two ways we could do it. And she was like, could we just have a short call, like a 30-minute call? And I have some questions about it. That is a yes, right? They
Mhm.
spent a lot of money with me. It wasn't like 5 years ago. It was like relatively recent, yes. But if it's somebody that booked an hour with me 5 years ago and they have a question that takes longer than 5 minutes to answer, that's where it gets really murky. And, I want to be helpful, but I also don't want to spend my entire day answering those quick questions because if you've been in web design, so I've been doing Squarespace web design for 7 years. I just looked in my Squarespace account. I have over 1,000 websites in my dashboard. So my husband's like, how many websites do you think you've touched? I'm like, well, over 1,000 because they're in the dashboard. If every one of those people had a quick question, like I would never be able to get any work done. So for me, it really is like, if I can answer this quickly and be helpful and I don't have to do any research, then I'll answer it and be done. If it requires research or something, I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to have to look into that. I think it'll take this long. Here's how much that costs. Yes.
Mhm.
Or if it's a past custom client, like that's a different relationship as well, I think. So I'm willing to like hop on a call with them. How do you
Mhm.
handle it, Alyssa?
I think I would have a pretty similar answer, honestly. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
past client that did a big project, I will
Mm-hmm.
definitely have a call with them to hear about
Yeah.
their new thing that they want to work
Yeah.
on or answer their question or whatever. If
Mm-hmm.
it's a current client, and again, if it's a big project, I'll probably do a phone call because that's not
Mm-hmm.
really that much work. You don't have to leave the house or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if it's like I have some clients that like to have a call for like every round of revisions. And when
Mm-hmm.
I notice that, I will sometimes say something like, oh, like my schedule is booked for the next couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is something that can be communicated via email? And then
Mm-hmm.
most of the time they'll just say yes, or they'll try to
Yeah.
communicate it thinking that they're not. And I know it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, I got this. Yeah. We did not need to have a call. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Christine says, I have a 5-minute rule for clients I like, which is that if a fix takes less than 5 minutes, I just do it and send them my buy me a coffee link instead of an invoice. It makes them happy. Yeah, the same. Same. If it's
Yeah.
something quick and easy and it's a past client that I like, absolutely. If
I
it's
agree.
somebody that, booked an hour with me 5 years ago and I've not heard from them since, and they have a very detailed question about Stripe versus Squarespace payments and pay links and donation blocks, then I'm just like, oh no, I cannot
Yeah.
answer that without a lot of context. And that justifies a paid call.
Yeah. Plus
Yeah.
with Squarespace, there are so many help resources in their like help
Mm-hmm.
hub. So a lot of times I will just send them the link. It's like, oh, here's the thing for how to do this. And if you want me to help you with it, you can hire
Yes.
me.
Yeah. Let me Google that for you. Here you go. Yeah.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep thinking about this, like coming back to like we all want to be helpful. And I think it's partly me too. It's like, saying no to things is hard sometimes because I want to help people and other designers, but it really is just like you have to have some protection around your own time because I could see that if we said yes to all of these things, we would never get anything done. We would have no paying clients because we'd be answering all of these,
And I feel like
just a
I've
quick
been there.
question.
I've
Yeah.
been in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is really difficult, especially if you're like the people pleaser,
Yeah.
but it's important.
It is, it is. So one last question before we wrap this up. What kind of boundaries do you have around your work time? Do you have like times or days that you don't check email or that you just don't sit down at your computer? I'm really curious what that looks like for you.
Okay, I do calls only Tuesday through Thursday with
Mhm,
some exceptions depending on the client.
mhm,
And I have my calendar set to stop accepting meetings after a certain number. So,
mhm.
because otherwise, like I said, I've been in the situation where I just have so many meetings that I don't have time to actually work.
Yeah,
And I do try to keep pretty strict 9 to 5. Every now and then I will do a little work in the evenings or on the
mhm,
weekends, but that's always my choice. And I
yeah.
never communicate with clients outside of 9 to 5. What about you?
Yeah, sometimes I will like in the evening just pull up my email or on the weekend and just like look at it and either like snooze something
Pre-draft.
until Monday or yeah, we go ahead and like, oh, that's quick. Let me just answer that and schedule it to send on Monday. So I do that. And like you, I have very limited call times. So I have like days blocked for just my work for clients or my work on my own business. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think I would get anything done.
Yeah. When you said you pull up your email on the weekends and look at it, I just imagined like this, like looking at it and like, oh no, look at this. But I feel like that brings up like another point for me. I used to get all my notifications on my phone for my email, and then I would be sitting around on Saturday and get an email from a client and be like, ah, and I get all stressed out. So I
Yeah.
stopped getting phone notifications for emails, and like
Yep.
truly did not matter. Like I didn't lose anything.
I also do not have push notifications turned on for emails anywhere. I have to go and check them. So like I'm not seeing anything unless I am going in, like I'm choosing to go and check. So
Yeah.
definitely a way to stay sane for sure.
Mhm. One of my other designer friends, Emma, her business is Salted Studio, but she and I have
Mhm.
this saying that we always say to each other, it's like there are no design emergencies, which is true.
I totally agree. I have been saying that for years too. It's just like I don't need to be on call. Like it is not life or death. Web design is not life or death. There are no and if it is like a true emergency, like if the site is down, there's nothing I can do about that. Like
Right.
there's
Yeah,
nothing I can do. Yeah.
yeah. And unless it's like, I don't know, a hospital or something,
Mhm.
yes, it's inconvenient, but it's probably not going to make or break their business. Let's be honest.
Right. Right.
If it's
I mean,
down
the
for a few
only
hours.
yeah. Yeah. The only thing I can think of is like a really hefty e-commerce site over the holidays or something. And if
Yeah,
that's
something like
down,
that.
it's like that's with with Squarespace or Shopify. That's like with the
Yeah,
provider. There's nothing that we could do to fix that.
yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, no web design emergencies. I actually once I was in Mexico and I had a web design emergency that I thought was going to be a quick fix, and it was like 2 hours of my afternoon when I was on vacation of dealing
Oh,
with a DNS issue because somebody else had messed it up. And I'm just like, why? Why did I say yes to this? Why?
ugh,
I'm on vacation.
yeah,
That's what I get for checking my emails.
yeah, I would say another boundary is I never work on vacation. I may
Mhm.
occasionally check some emails and respond to certain ones,
Mhm.
but all my clients know ahead of time that I'm going to be gone and
Yeah.
that I'm not going to be doing any work for them when I'm
Yes.
away.
Yes, that taught me that lesson as well. So yeah, yeah, same
Yeah.
now.
Well, maybe we should check if anyone else has any questions. Drop them
Yeah,
in the chat.
yeah. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We've got just a few minutes left, but I think that like this conversation is just so good because it's like we're on the same page in terms of boundaries and clients, and it feels really validating to talk to another
Yes,
designer and it's like, yes, that is what I do as well, or this is how I feel too.
I was
So
feeling
thank
the same way.
it's really
Yeah,
nice.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have any more questions. So thank you so much to everybody who hung out with us today or is watching the recording. If you have a takeaway, if there's something you learned today, drop it in the chat. We would love to know, even if you're watching the recording, if there was a takeaway. Thanks for coming, Christine and Joe. Great to have you here. We would love to hear from you if there was something that you're going to move forward with in your own business. Alyssa, thank you so much for being here. Um,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah, you guys, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thank you, Christy, for inviting me. This was so fun.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Totally. All right, bye.
Bye.